All right, Colin right, Colin wrong. On a Monday, it's a weekly tradition. Here we go.
Where Colin was right.
Sean Payton came out and said it, whether you like it or not. He said Nathaniel Hackett was one of the worst coaching gigs of all time. They were 29th in the NFL getting plays in offensively and defensively, and it wasn't on Russell Wilson. We had said this. I thought last year was 75-80% on Hackett. Whether you agree with Payton coming out and criticizing, in a very insular world of coaches, he said what we said. This is not on Russ. This was one of the worst head coaching gigs of all time.
Where Colin was wrong.
Aaron Rodgers not only took a massive $35 million pay cut, he signed a 7-year deal with no voidable years, meaning he is not only refusing to talk retirement, which became tedious, he's basically saying, I'm a Jet, and then I'm shutting it down. So he's really done a nice job to correcting what I would call missteps in Green Bay, where he, took the offseason off, always talked about retirement. Nobody wants to hear that in any sport. I mean, Devontae Adams left. One of the reasons, he didn't know if Aaron Rodgers was going to be around. Don't talk about retirement. So I think Aaron has hit it out of the park. And the fact that he took a $35 million pay cut, I didn't see that coming.
Where Colin was right.
Well, I've said before, you can buy pressure and you can buy expectations, but you can't buy a World Series, and the Mets are proof. They are now at the trade deadline tomorrow, bailing. They just got rid of a closer to the Marlins who wasn't happy, Max Scherzer. I thought he was pretty good last year. He regressed this year. He's an older guy. He'll go to the Rangers and probably crush and save a lot of money in taxes. But this is what we said. You can get better, but if you look at the Padres and the Mets, they went and tried to buy a World Series, and it just doesn't work that way because baseball and golf, there's a lot of downtime. The game gets into your head mentally. And I think, by the way, the Mets have really good players, and a lot of them, the game is in their head right now.
Where Colin was wrong.
The Angels said, no, we're not going to move Shohei Ohtani. We're going to get as much as we can. Last week, they went to the White Sox, got an elite closer and starter. And then over the weekend, they got more help. C.J. Cron and Randall Grichuk, 2 more bats. So the Angels have said, we're not moving off him. It comes with some danger. Can they afford $650, $700 million? But they're going all in. I give him credit for having guts. Mike Trout stayed there. Ichiro stayed. Some players, they don't want the pressure of playing in New York or a Boston or a Philadelphia. They like the laid-back West Coast, so good for the Angels.
Where Colin was right.
I've said this now for 2 years. Jim Irsay is basically Jerry Jones without the prestige. He's really gotten into meddling, which I think makes it very difficult for Chris Ballard, the GM. Listen, I agree with potentially not signing Jonathan Taylor early to a massive extension because I think Anthony Richardson could end up gobbling up a lot of his rush yards and being a 1,000-yard rushing quarterback with 10-plus touchdowns. I think that's very possible, maybe probable. Anthony Richardson is a world-class athlete, but you can't say stuff publicly to bang on employees. I don't care if you own a football team or a bakery.
Where Colin was wrong.
I have questioned sometimes the self-awareness of Justin Fields, but I got to give him credit here. He said he was offered the Netflix quarterback documentary series, and he passed on it, and I loved his quote. He said, I'd rather keep everything the way it is around here, having cameras around the building. It would change the vibe. I want to keep it real, natural, organic, and focus on what's going on in the building. 3 words, smart, smart, smart. I was a little worried last week when he put himself in one of the all-time great athletic quarterback class. Don't do that. You're 5-20. But I think this is really smart. Understanding that a docu-series cameras are going to change the temperature. I've seen marriages unravel. I've seen bands unravel. You put cameras in a building hovering around you for 3 weeks, this is not the time. Mahomes, fine. But even Joe Burrow said, not interested. Dak said not interested. Good for Fields.
Where Colin was right.
I like the NBA warning not only Dame Lillard, but Aaron Goodwin, his agent, that they will not tolerate both the agent or the player, and it's been the agent saying, we're only playing for Miami. That's not fair. The NBA said enough is enough. Dame signed an extension and took the money, so he's going to have to deal going somewhere that's not ideal. I think the Blazers would love to send him to the Eastern Conference in Miami, and I would love to see it because I think Miami and Dame are literally a perfect fit. But I also think he could fit in Philadelphia if they move off James Harden. I think he could fit in Boston, though I think it's unlikely with Jaylen Brown's deal. In the end, I don't think it's fair for players to sign an extension a year earlier and take all the money and then be unwilling to be a trade partner with multiple suitors. Don't take the money then. Colin right, Colin wrong on a Monday.